Hello everyone, welcome back to the Java tutorial series. In this video, we will learn about the static keyword in Java. We will understand what static means, where it can be used, and how it helps to share data and behavior across all objects of a class. We will also see some practical examples of static variable, static methods, static blocks. Okay, so let's get started. So first question is, what is the static keyword? Okay, so the static keyword, it belongs to the class, not objects. So this is like, we should know that a static keyword belongs to class. Static is associated with the class, not objects. And the properties mentioned in static, so those properties, those instance variables will be shared among all objects. So let's say we have one class xyz. Okay, now xyz, now in this class we have some variable in static, let's say static int. Okay, static int age, and we will say like 20. And for this class we have, say, two objects. Okay, object 1, object 2. So for xyz class we have two objects. So both objects, so since it is this instance variable is static, age is static, only once it will be loaded in the memory. Okay, age, so there will be common memory area, so it will refer to, both object will refer to same memory area for age. Okay, that's what it is written, shared among all objects. So here we have taken example for two objects. So this variable is shared across multiple objects. Why? Because we have mentioned it as static. And memory allocated will be only once. So for this variable, memory allocation will be only once. Accessed using the class name. So how can we access this variable? Using class name. What is the class name? xyz. So how we will access? xyz dot age. So like this we can access the static variables. So here it is written, accessed using the class name. Okay, so the static keyword makes a member belong to the class instead of individual objects. Okay, and since it belongs to the class, only one copy exists in the memory. Only one copy exists in the memory, regardless of how many objects are created. Okay, so static members can be accessed directly by the class name. Now let's see the static variable. So a static variable is shared by all objects of the class. Okay, so here in this example, class is student and static variable is college. So this college will be loaded in the memory only once, college, and the value will be ABC college. So college will be loaded loaded in memory once. Okay, and this variable will be shared by all objects. So let's say we have two objects, obj1 and obj2. So it is shared by both objects. And let's say if object 2 modifies the value of college static variable, let's say instead of abc college to another college, okay, something xyz. So object 2 modifies the value of static variable, and then if object 1 is trying to fetch the value of static variable, then object 1 will get the updated value. That means it is the common variable for both the objects. Okay, if one is modifying, then another object is accessing, then another object will get the modified values. Since it is shared by all objects, if one object change its value, the updated value becomes visible to every other object. Why? Because only one copy exists in the memory. Only one copy. Now, okay, let's go to IntelliJ and see one example for better clarity. Okay, what we are learning here, static, concept of static. So let me create one class. Okay, so I will create one class called student. Okay, here I will define, okay, what happened? Okay, here I will define static variable, static string college equals to, okay, let me take same abc college. Okay, now string name. Okay, this is another property. I will define one constructor. Okay, string name. Now this dot name equals to name. We already know, right? This dot name means instance variable, and this is constructor parameter. So constructor parameter value is getting assigned to instance variable of the current object. Okay, now I will create one method display. Okay, I will do nothing in this. I will just simply print name and the college value. I will give one space and college. Oh, I have written should be small letter. Okay, here it should be college. Now I will define one main method, static void main, in order to run this program. Okay, string array arguments. Now I will create the object student s1 equals to new student, and I will provide the name Vicky. Okay, and I will create one more object, student s2 equals to new student. I will provide Rahul. Okay, now so I have created two objects, one with Vicky, one with another with name Rahul. Okay, and I will call the display method for both the object reference display. Okay, now when we call the display method, what will happen? Okay, before reaching here, let's start from here. So here object is getting created, so it will call parameterized constructor. Where is the parameterized constructor? Here. So wiki will be assigned to the instance variable name. Okay. So when we invoke or call the display method, it will print the name, that is wiki, and college. So college is what? Static variable. That means variable college is static variable, hence it is available for all objects. Okay, only one copy of this variable will be located in memory, and that one copy will be available for all objects. This is not associated with the object. This is not an instance variable. Okay. So all objects will share the same memory area for this variable. If any of the object modifies this value and remaining objects try to fetch the value of this variable, then those objects will receive the updated value. Okay. And this is what? This is instance variable. Instance variable means it is associated with the object. So each object will have different values for instance variable. It is associated with the object, and static variable is associated with the class, and it will be common for all objects. Okay. So when we are calling display method, what is happening? It is printing name. So name we have passed here, Vicky and Rahul. And then we are printing college. So college is same for both the objects. So it will print ABC college for both the objects. Let's verify. See, Vicky ABC college, Rahul ABC college. So both student objects here, both student objects share the same college variable because it is static. Even though there are two objects, only one college value exists in memory. Okay. Now we will see, I will create another class called demo. Okay. In this example, I will create static method. So far we have seen static variable. Okay. Now we will see static method with return type void, method name greet, and inside this method I will do nothing. I will simply print welcome. Welcome to the static method. Okay. Now static greet method. Okay. Just for understanding, I am writing these lines. Now I will create one main method to execute this program. Okay. Static void main string array arguments. Okay. So in this main method, so since this is static method, there is one rule for static method. We can directly call the static method with the help of class name. How can we call using class name? Class name dot method name. What is the method name? Greet. That's it. So we can directly call this method using class name when the method is static. So it should print welcome to the static greet method. Let's verify. So in the output we can see welcome to the static greet method. So in this example, we don't need to create an object of this class, and using that object reference we are calling this method. So we don't need to do those things since the method is static. So a static method belongs to the class. Okay. What I told, static methods are associated with class. So static method belong to the class and can be called without creating an object. This is why the main method itself is declared as static. Static methods are commonly used for utility function, okay? Now we will see some rules of static methods. Okay. So what are the rules of a static method? So static method, focus here. This is a static method, not a static variable. Static method rules we are studying. So static method can access static variables. Okay. Can call static methods. That means one static method can call another static methods. Cannot directly access instance variables. So instance variables are associated with objects. So we cannot directly access. So inside a static method, we cannot directly access instance variables and cannot use this or super keyword inside static methods. So these are the rules for static methods. Okay, so since static methods belong to the class, they do not work with any specific object, therefore they can directly access only static members. Okay, and we have studied like instance variable and methods require an object reference. Okay, I am explaining this third line. Cannot directly access instance variable. Okay, why? Because instance variable require an object reference and static methods are not associated with the objects. These are associated with the class. Okay, associated with the class. Okay, now we'll see one more example. Let's say I will remove this greet method for now. I will define one block called static block. Okay, static block, and I will just print what I will print now. I will print a static block executed. Okay, now, and here I will write one statement. We are just checking the execution flow, how the execution is happening. Okay, so I will write here main method executed. So we are checking the execution flow. So we have defined one block with name static. So a static block executes only once, and when it executes, when the class in this example demo will be loaded in the memory. So once the class is loaded in the memory, this static block will execute. And mostly we use this static block to initialize static variables or performing some one-time setup task. Okay, so the agenda is to initialize static variables or performing one-time setup before the main method executes. Okay, so let's verify how the execution flow should be. First it should execute the static block, then main method. So output should be static block executes, then main method executed. Let's verify. Okay, in the output we can see static block executed first, then main method. Let's see the advantages of static blocks. Okay, what are the advantages of static blocks? It saves memory. Since static blocks are associated with class, not with objects, it shares the common data. Okay, so it shares the data. It is not associated with every single object. Not associated with object means no object required. And mostly these static blocks are used for utility methods. What are utility methods? We'll see in the project, and at the end of this course we'll create a project. Okay, so we'll see there how we are creating utility methods and how we are using the static, okay, static methods, static variables, those things. Easy access using class name. So we have seen with the examples, like with the help of class name we can directly invoke, we can directly call the static methods, static variables. Okay, now we will see the difference between static and non-static. Okay, so the key difference is ownership. Static members belongs to the class and are shared among all objects, while non-static member belong to individual objects, and each object has its own separate copy. Okay, let's go point by point, then it will be easier. So static belongs to class and non-static belongs to object. Okay, static will be in the memory, only one copy will be loaded, but for object, each object will have separate copy. And how can we access static variables? Using class name, using class name. And how do we access here? Using object name. Here object is not required, here object is required. So memory is allocated once, and when? During class loading. And here memory is allocated every time an object is created. Whenever we write new keyword, an object is created. Each time object is created. Whereas for static, only once memory will be allocated, and that also during class loading. And we all know when the class loading, in which method area, in which memory, in the method area, class will get loaded, and at that same time this memory will be allocated. Okay, let's quickly summarize what we have learned so far. Okay, so static belongs to class. Static variables are shared for all objects. Static methods are associated with the class. So that's why static methods require no object. Static method doesn't require any object. Static block execute once, and when it executes after class loading, after class are loaded in the memory, static block will execute, and after a static block the main method will execute. So this is the execution flow we have seen. Okay, and static nested class belong to the outer class. Okay, this point you can ignore. Nested class we have not seen so far. So that's all for this video, and I hope you understood the concept of static variable and static method and different rules of static. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.